but we're not here because of the goodness of the state or socialists. We're here, through nature, right? So we've come first, not government. So we have an inalienable right to exist, and no other man or collective institution can tell us how we should live, as long as we don't hurt other individuals, as long as we don't steal from other individuals. And talk about stealing, he talks about how property actually came before government. Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, Maneko 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. We're going to look at the UK economy, and this, of course, applies to all the Western economies and all the economies around the world, for that matter. None of them are really free market economy and small government economies, unfortunately. I think socialism and, yes, the corporatist fascist state is really strong. There's not much difference between left and right anymore. There's what we call Uniparty. And the reason I'm talking about this today, of course, is that yesterday Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, or Rashid Sunak, as Joe Biden would call him, announced a general election for the 4th of July. Unfortunately, I don't think the British are going to free themselves from this Uniparty on the 4th of July. Whoever they choose, whatever party they choose, Conservatives or Labour, they're pretty much big government socialist parties. So what I'm going to do today is quickly go through this book and recommend it to you, The Law by Frederick Bastiat. You can get a free PDF from the Mises Institute for this book. I'm going to put a link to it in the description. And I think Frederick Bastiat has the solution. And I really think we need a revolution in thinking, of course, not a bloody revolution. But that's going to take a very long time, I think, or maybe not, if we try to spread the message of why small government and the rule of law, private property, the respect for the individual is what makes countries or nations or economies do well. What we have today, unfortunately, is not even a semblance of freedom, the respect for property, or even the individual, I would say. So let's go through a little bit of Rishi Sunak's statement yesterday. I was listening to it from the beginning and to the important parts to do with the economics. There's a lot of, I don't want to use the word L, but there's a lot of untruths that he touched upon. In my opinion, he said that Putin triggered the energy crisis after the invasion of the Ukraine. Of course, we know that Putin wanted a deal, the Minsk agreement, and we know that NATO pushed Putin into doing what he did in February 2022, but that's beside the point. I've got proof here, and I'm going to put some of these videos up in the card that I did in 2021. So, yes, the energy crisis in the UK started way before the war in the Ukraine. I've got a video here. I'll put it up in the cards from October 5th, yes, 2021. And it says, "We have a currency collapse on our hands, not an energy crisis." So we were having an energy crisis, and I said it's all to do with the currency. And then on November 25th, I did another video. Government punishes taxpayers by bailing out bulb energy. Well, I don't know how many of these challenger energy providers went bust in 2021, but there were a lot. And it had a lot to do with rising natural gas prices and the fact that the previous Prime Minister to Boris Johnson, Theresa May, almost forgot her name. That's how like charismatic and important she was. But she put a cap on how much energy companies or providers could charge their customers. I think it was in 2018, price cap. And then when energy prices started going up in 2021, they hadn't hedged, these energy companies, and they could only charge, let's say, £2 to their customers. They had to pay 3 or 4 or 5 pounds for the energy, so they went bust. Yeah, I did a video on December 27th, 2021. Boris fiddles while energy sector burns. So that was really when the energy crisis started. Yes, when the war in the Ukraine started, it might have accentuated the crisis, but it wasn't. Rishi Sunak is being a bit economical with the truth. He's also talking about the fact that the UK is now growing faster than all the other major economies. And that as well is pretty much kind of twisting the truth, I would say. US GDP has slowed down, but the last numbers we got for US GDP for the first quarter, it was still growing at 1.6% year on year. For the UK, let's look at the UK GDP. Well, the last numbers that came out for the first quarter, UK GDP was growing 0.2% year on year. So to say that the UK is growing faster than the US is a total, well, it's a lie, because the US grew at 1.6 and the UK grew at 0.2. He also mentioned France. Let's quickly look at French GDP. Well, in the first quarter, French GDP year on year grew at 1.1%. So again, faster than the UK. German GDP might be a little weaker, but I would say it's because the Germans have a smaller budget deficit, and government spending comes out of, a lot of it comes out of the budget deficit, and government spending is added to GDP. So I would argue that, yeah, Germany is not doing great, but the UK is not doing that much better, because we have a deficit of almost 5% of GDP. The Germans have it below 3%, or about 2% of GDP, their deficit. So there's not as much help from the government, which in my opinion is a good thing, because we're going to talk about big government. And he also talks about the fact that he helped, well, he was chancellor, don't forget, during the lockdown. He was the guy, for example, who created the scheme to pay people to stay at home and, get paid, not work. The furlough scheme, which added, hundreds of billions. The whole COVID thing added hundreds of billions, $500 billion in debt to the economy. He did some things that really cost the taxpayer billions as well. For example, there's this article from March 15th, 2022 in the FT. MPs reveal scale of fraud in UK COVID bounce back loan scheme. Well, that was Rishi Sunak. And it says here in the FT, more than 46 billion was lent by banks under bounce back loan program, fully guaranteed by the government, with only minimal checks made on borrowers of bank loans up to 50,000. Official estimates suggest that anywhere between 3.3 and 5 billion could be lost in fraud. So we'll never really know how. It could be tens of billions that we taxpayers lose, and therein lies the problem Rishi Sunak really is a socialist, just like Keir Starmer is a socialist. So it won't really matter. The other thing that he was not very economical, which he was economical with the truth, is saying that they've been able to bring down mortgage rates. Well, if you look at the 2-year yield for the gilt UK government bond, well, just before Liz Truss became prime minister, or around the time that she did, the 2-year yield was still below 3%. Yes, it spiked to, around 4.7. But now it's still around 4.5. So they might have brought these yields down, the cost of borrowing, from, let's say, the middle of last year, when they got up above 5%. But it's still pretty much at levels when we had the Kwarteng Liz Truss mini budget fiasco. So there you go. Nothing really much better. If he really wanted to bring down mortgage rates to the levels of pre-2022, when things, when things hit the fan, we'd have to be below 3%, and we're nowhere near there. And we also got the 5-year yield. That's also important for mortgage rates. We are around 4.2%. And as I said before, the Kwarteng government, well, it was trading below 2%, believe it or not. So I don't think anything is improved, really. And why is he calling this election? Well, I think he's trying to embellish everything and use the data from yesterday for CPI. And he's got this narrative that the UK economy is growing faster than all our major trading partners, so to speak. And he thinks people will buy that. And I think he's making a big mistake because he's not being honest. Do I care, really? Will it make much difference who wins? No. And that's why I think we need someone like Milei in Argentina to really rattle the establishment. Am I saying Milei is perfect? No. But with that, I'm going to go through Frederic Bastiat's The Law. And I think the world would be a much better place if school children were made to read this book. But I won't hold my breath. So let's quickly go through here what it says in this book. And I highly recommend it. It's not a big book and it's easy to read. So this is what Walter Williams said about the book. The law created order in my thinking about liberty and just human conduct. Frederic Bastiat, statesman, essayist, and economist. Frederic Bastiat was renowned champion of individual freedom, and The Law, first published in 1850, is Bastiat's most famous enduring work. The Law has been acclaimed for more than a century as the classic moral defense of liberty and limited government. Here's a timeless message of immutable principle in the immortal words of one of history's most courageous thinkers and brilliant writers. This is what Joseph Schumpeter said, the most brilliant economic journalist who ever lived. This is what Václav Klaus, former Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, said. A great prophet of liberty, the free society, and the free market. And let's go through a little more the flavor of this book. And this is what he says in this book, one of the passages, and I quote, "It is impossible to introduce into society a greater chance and a greater evil than this, the conversion of the law into an instrument of plunder." So what does he mean by that? Well, he means that government uses the law not to protect you, the individual, your property, yes, and also your safety from, let's say, violence, but they use it to actually steal from you. That's what plunder is. Legal plunder, he calls it, or lawful plunder. They will take from you to give to someone else. And if that's if that's immoral on an individual basis, and we can all agree with that, I think that it's wrong to break into your neighbor's house and steal something. Why should it be right for government? Government is supposed to work for us, to represent us. How can they do that, right? That's his whole argument. France of 1850 was in political turmoil in the aftermath of the Revolution of 1848. The tide of socialism was sweeping the nation. Well, the tide of socialism has really swept everything today, every nation, in my opinion. One man stood alone against the tide. So this is one thing he said. It's his most memorable epigram, so to speak, and it's my favorite. He said, "The state is that great fiction by which everyone tries to live at the expense of everyone else." So there you go. So Rishi Sunak is not like a libertarian or a conservative or a free market guy. No, he's a socialist, and so is Keir Starmer, and so are all all politicians out there, with very few exceptions, of course, like Ron Paul. Ron Paul, he's read this book, I'm sure. I got this book from the Mises Institute, and I met Ron Paul at the Mises Institute in 2002. Let's quickly go through what he calls legal plunder, and then I'll stop and we'll quickly look at the markets. Legal plunder has many names. Now, legal plunder can be committed in an infinite number of ways. Thus, we have an infinite number of plans for organizing it. Tariffs, protection, benefits, subsidies, encouragements, progressive taxation, public schools, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed profits, minimum wages, a right to relief, a right to the tools of labor, free credit, and so on and so on. All these plans as a whole, with their common aim of legal plunder, constitute socialism. So I'm not just having a go at the welfare state and what's more commonly known as socialism. I'm having a go at also the corporatist states. That's how they get away with it. They divide businesses and the public, but it's all the same. It's all socialism. The other thing he talks about is how things have evolved, that human beings, the individual, we're here because of the Creator. You might not believe in God, but that's what he thinks. You might believe in another force. But we're not here because of the goodness of the state or socialists. We're here, through nature, right? And so we've come first, not government. So we have an inalienable right to exist, and no other man or collective institution can tell us how we should live, as long as we don't hurt other individuals, as long as we don't steal from other individuals. And talk about stealing, he talks about how property actually came before government. And why was government instituted? And government, of course, is a collective of individuals. Well, is instituted just to protect the individual's private property. So how can it be right and moral that government uses its limited power, or in this case it isn't limited, to actually plunder or steal from individuals? So that's what I'm saying. So unfortunately, I don't think anything will change after July 4th. It will be just a matter of marketing. We'll have one change of socialism for another, or you can call it conservatives and labor, but it will be just to two cheeks of the same derriere. So that's the way I feel about it. I think, I don't know, Rishi Sunak might get away with it, but I don't think so. I think he's going to, unfortunately, not unfortunately, because I don't care, but the Conservative Party is going to be trounced on July 4th. It doesn't mean to say things are going to get better, though. That's why you have to keep your head down, look after yourself, look after your family, look after your friends, look after, as many people as you can, and spread the word of individual freedom, morality, property, rule of law, small government, and tell them about this book. Maybe they'll read it and tell their friends. That's how the network effect works. So it's 8:25 a.m. London time. We're going to look at the markets. Yes, and we've had a fairly sharp correction in gold and silver. And I've spoken about this, that we should expect this. And if you're a stacker for the long haul, well, it just gives you a bit of a chance to keep stacking, to add on to your stack. I don't think anything has changed in terms of fundamentals and technicals, especially for the long term. The miners is a different story. If you're trading that short term, it's tricky. I'm holding on to them, and I'm not trying to time moves, because that's very difficult to do, even though I have the experience from working in the financial markets. The more you try to play these games, the more you're going to lose, the more commissions you're going to pay. I think, personally, I'm just going to sit tight. So we've got gold, spot gold at $23.64. It's down another $14. High's been 85 and the low has been 54. Silver, that has come off about, right now we're at 30.45. It's down about 1%. The high's been 31. And actually the low, I want to talk about the low. The low's been 30.14 or thereabouts. And if you look at this chart here, going back to 2020, and I remember that weekend well, because when COMEX opened at 11 p.m. Sunday, London time, spot gold traded up just above 30, and it went to 30.10, and that was the top. That's been the top prior to recently, when we've made a new high for the last 4.5 years or so. So I think this is a retest of that breakout, and we went very near that level overnight. We went to 30.15. We'll have to see. There still might be some more downside to gold and silver, but I'm not concerned at all. Dow futures is up 49. The NASDAQ futures is up 168. I think they had some NVIDIA results. That's why it's higher. S&P as well is up 31 points, so up about 0.6%. What about the currencies? Well, they're pretty much unchanged. Not really much to write home about. WTI crude is down about 0.25%, 77.30. Brent is around 81.50, down slightly. High-grade copper, that's corrected as well. That's normal, because we've had a pretty big run in high-grade copper. Don't forget, high-grade copper stayed below 4 for a few years, and we broke above that recently and went up above 5. So we're still way above that 4 level. It's at 477. It's down 1.2%. So I'm going to stop here and wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.